USA advances. Bit of a must-win game. Stu Holden joins the show as we try to win the Gold Cup. And finally, a special Game 7 edition of Most to Gain. And don't forget, Most to Lose. Ooh, a little sweet, little sour. You never know. Alongside Nick Wright.
Jordan's in there.
No, Drew, I don't spoil the Bud Light.
I know he's in there. He's in there every time.
He's only in there when narratively it makes sense.
Yeah, he's never shoehorned in there.
Exactly.
Like at the Indy 500.
Somehow, right, exactly. Narratively, he always makes sense.
But we're starting today's show with Brews Pacers. Slow start. Got a little nervous. Looked bad, and then the Pacers came alive. They went on a 68-32 run to close out the first half, led by 31 at one point in the game. And Halliburton's calf looked more than fine. It looked like it was never an injury at all. No comment. Here he was after the game.
We just wanted to protect home court. You know, we didn't want to see these guys celebrate a championship on our home floor, backs against the wall, and we just responded. So many different guys chip in. Total team effort. Really proud of this group.
Coming into the game, there were so many questions about your health and that calf strain. Just how were you able to just battle through it tonight?
It's the finals. It's the finals. Like, you know, all of us got to give everything we have. You know, I'll give everything I have for this group in this locker room.
Brew, you called it. Yet another perfect prediction from you.
Well, look, Wilds, this is why I switched my pick at 2-2, I might add. Not 3-1. After a loss, I switched my pick.
As the most famous pick switches have happened after a loss.
Knicks was, too, after a loss. I credit him that. I wouldn't have done it if it was 3-1.
Yeah.
Pacers. It would have just been ridiculous. But I did it so that when they reached the brink of winning their first NBA title, I could give a boisterous, full-throated, no holds barred, knockdown! That's what I'm talking about.
You switching has been just great for your spirit and the show.
I'm telling you, I was really torn. I really was, and now I feel good. All right, anyway, what a performance. Not only by the Pacers, but by the Bud list. All three, T.J. McConnell, Rick Carlisle, and Tyrese Halliburton all had great nights, and Halliburton played really well. Like that was one of his best games in the series.
Yeah.
And
seemed
so
to be moving great too.
He didn't. I mean, I think he was hurt. Obviously, I don't think the doctors lied about that. But you would not know it.
No.
They took him off the ball. You know, for the most part, he wasn't bringing the ball up to take a little strain off of him. But he played well. McConnell, obviously, and Carlisle did a great job. But the key, I said going in, the key was don't turn the ball over. Yep. They only had 11 turnovers. They only had 2 in the first half. Right. The game was essentially decided in the first half. They only had 2 turnovers. I think they had 7 through 3 quarters when it was definitely over.
Actually, one of the box scores I had them give me was through 3 quarters.
Because that was the game.
That's the the through 3 quarters are the only stats that matter.
That's all that matters. And they didn't turn it over much. And then when they did, they didn't let OKC get out and run because OKC's offense, obviously they're a well-balanced team, but offensively in the half court, like they got Shea, who's pretty much unstoppable, but if you keep them from scoring in transition and off of your turnovers, then you can do pretty well against their half-court defense. And so that was one of the keys, and because Indiana didn't shoot that way, they shot 41%. But they didn't turn the ball over.
So Brew asked me right before we went on the air, he's like, I know you picked Oklahoma City, but were you shocked by last night? And he was being earnest. And I was like, I was shocked by last night. I'm stunned. And I have been saying my confidence in the Thunder is more about respect to the Thunder than disrespect to the Pacers. But at this point, I must admit, unintentionally, it's been disrespect to the Pacers because I laid out yesterday, like, all right, if the Pacers are going to win, here are all of the things that have to go their way. Almost none of them happened. Like, I was like, Miles Turner, finally, he's 1 for 9. Benedict Mathurin, have a big game. Right. He's 1 for 6. Like, the Pacers had one guy score 20 And that was Obi Toppin, who was the only guy who was left in kind of in the garbage time. So, like, when the game de facto ended, nobody had more than 17 for the Pacers. The Pacers' defense doing this to Oklahoma City is shocking to me. I understand, and on the Oklahoma City side of things, in their defense, so to speak, this has been a line for line, game for game recreation of the Nuggets series. Lose game 1 on a buzzer beater, blow them out in game 2, lose game 3 resoundingly, win game 4 in kind of clutch fashion, and game 5 win, not necessarily in clutch fashion, but win kind of wire to wire, and then game 6 lose badly. And that was this series and the Nuggets series, so maybe they will have the same ending. But this postseason, the Pacers are as good as the Thunder. They are both 15-7. They have both faced elimination one time. They have, they have played each other in this series. The offensive rating for one team is 109.5, and for the other team is 110.5. For this 2-month stretch, and I would argue personally, well, you guys might disagree, I think the Pacers have had the slightly harder path.
I was going to say it's right there.
Yeah, round 1, Grizzlies or Bucks. I think the Bucks are better. Round 2, Cavs, Nuggets. The Cavs were the better regular season team. They were banged up. Round 3, Knicks, Timberwolves. To me, that's a toss-up. There is the respect has to be given. And the Pacers, while I was watching that game, I kept thinking about Matherin's quote. And Mathurin finally has a quote. When I hear Mathurin quote, I don't think of him being like, LeBron ain't better than me. I think of what he said before game 6, when he was like, essentially, I'm not saying I'm going to score a bunch. I am saying we are going to dive for every loose ball. We're going to give all-out effort. And the Pacers' execution and effort and speed, and they were down 10-2. And then it was a 62-32 run the rest of the half. It was stunning. Now I've been wrong about basically everything in these playoffs. Not for lack of trying or lack of watching. You do. But yeah, I guess. But I'm stunned by what we saw last night.
Brew, 8 players are now averaging double-digit points for the Pacers.
That's wild.
This is just the ultimate team. You don't know where it's going to come from, and it's a lot of times when you have players saying that, it just feels a little bit like sports talk. It doesn't matter.
Saying
but
the right thing.
Yeah, but it actually is true with this team. Like, oh, TJ's playing. Obi Toppin's hitting threes. Here's the other stat I wanted to throw at you to get your reaction from Tom Havistro, who just does a great job. Ball movement data, Pacers passed the ball 107 more times than Oklahoma City last night. Yeah. So it just feels like, not that OKC is a one-man show, but it feels like the Pacers are acting more as a team right now.
Yeah, and that's how they play. That's their style of play. Nobody dominates the ball. OKC is a lot of ISO for Shea, or Jalen goes ISO. So the passing numbers aren't surprising to me. I was on the Herd earlier, and Colin said, and I think some other commentators have said this or written this, that this would be the most unusual NBA champion ever, if Indiana wins it. And I compared them to the only 2 teams in recent memory, modern basketball, to win the championship without like all-time great superstar or stars leading them. And that was the 79 Supersonics,
which
Seattle.
Was a weird team.
Yep. And the 04 Detroit Pistons. But the Pistons, Chauncey Billups was a phenomenal high school prospect and college prospect. He was a 3rd pick in the draft. He just started his career very disappointingly, but became a really great player. She was phenomenal at UNC, North Carolina, was great in Portland. Like, they had guys you knew were uber talented, who just for whatever reason hadn't really fulfilled their potential.
2 Hall of Famers, right? Am I missing a Hall of Famer?
Ben Wallace.
Ben and Chauncey, right?
Rashid's not in? I would assume.
No, Rashid's not in.
And Larry Brown, the coach, which is kind of in line with Carlisle.
And
this would be the most shocking.
This
would be the most shocking upset in not only NBA history. It's on the short list in sports.
I do disagree with that. I understand the odds makers saying it's the biggest upsetter. I think, and it's Rick Carlisle, I think the Dallas over Miami was bigger, and I think the 04 Pistons over the Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, Gary Payton Lakers was bigger.
So for whatever it's worth,
not for the odds,
Miami, Dallas, Miami was the exact same favorite over Dallas as Oklahoma City was over Miami the next year. That's a fact. Minus 175 plus 155. Yeah. I know you're not into the gambling.
I'm just looking at you have LeBron, Wade, and Bosh.
But in the run-up, it was because Dallas had swept Kobe's Lakers, who were the two-time defending champs.
They had played well.
They had played well. And so this would be so stunning. And they are a game, like at this point, it wouldn't be stunning. No. They have to win one game. But the totality of it, to me, would be stunning.
All right, the once dominant Thunder failed to meet the moment. SGA had 21, also had 8 turnovers. Jalen scored 24 fewer points than Game 5, and Chet had 4 more points than I did. I didn't play. Here was SGA postgame.
The way I see it is we suck tonight.
Did you guys, you individually, did you feel the weight of the chance to clinch a championship tonight?
Definitely in the back of our minds, for sure. Now, we didn't play like it at all, and that's why the night went the way it did. We got exactly what we deserved.
Brew, your reaction?
Look, obviously Indiana deserves a ton of credit. They were great. But OKC contributed to this. Like all series long, even the games they've lost, the defense has been phenomenal, right? Their hands have been active. Like it's been Indiana's just been struggling not to turn the ball over. And you saw none of that last night. Like they just looked like a regular team defensively last night. They weren't as aggressive, weren't as active. And this is where, to me, this was their youth showing. Because they've never been in a, players and coaches will tell you the hardest game in a playoff series is the closeout game. If you're the team that's winning and you got to close somebody out, they don't know that. They got Alex Caruso won a championship. That was in the bubble. There were no fans, so it's different. So they look to me like a team that have been listening all the last few days about how they're about to win the championship. They're about to be this all-time great team. And the best player on the other team, I doubt they thought he wouldn't play, but they probably thought he'd be severely hampered. And I think that was smart. I bet Indiana knew, man, he's playing. But it was smart of them to leave it as a game-time decision and leave it out there for, he might play, but he might not be,
Certainly we didn't expect him to play better.
Right, and he was better. There's no
he's
doubt.
Hurt and also better somehow.
Yeah, and so I just think that OKC played a large role in this. Now, to their credit, they have bounced back. You mentioned it against Denver. They got blown out by Minnesota by 40 and came back and won the next 2. So you can't write them out. But last night, that was, I won't say as much them as it was the Pacers, but that was a lot of OKC just not showing up.
With the game through 3 quarters, they had 6 assists. That's a stunning number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 6 to 21 assists. Not that that's everything, but that's like a wow number. Here's why I'd be concerned if I were Oklahoma City. Halftime was a moment to reset. Now, maybe they don't come back and win. They're down 22. But as far as focused on planning the celebration, not down 22 at the half. Yeah. We saw them.
22 is not over.
It's not over, but it's also, you're no longer thinking about where we're partying tonight. Yeah. You're like, okay, we've got work to do.